So Consumer Reports just released another video reviewing the Tesla full self-driving autopilot system. And I haven't watched it yet, but in this video, we're going to react to how they reviewed the Tesla full self-driving system to see if they got it accurately and correct. Before we get into the video, my name is Dennis. I picked up a Tesla Model 3 about a year ago, and I make videos about my experience. So if you're interested in any of that, please hit that subscribe. For those of you that don't know, Tesla Autopilot and Tesla Full Self-Driving are two separate things. Tesla Autopilot mainly just keeps you in the lane when you're on highways and local roads, but the Full Self-Driving feature has a lot of other things like summons, where the car can come to you from a parked space, auto park, or the car can park itself while you're in it, auto lane change, where it could basically change lanes on the highway for you, navigate on autopilot, which takes you from highway on-ramp to highway exit, and finally, hitting that like button for the YouTube algorithm. So let's get in the video and see what they got correct.
For years, Tesla has distinguished itself from other car makers by focusing on two initiatives: building sleek electric cars and trying to develop software and technology to create the world's first fully autonomous self-driving cars.
Let's not forget that Tesla has also focused on solar technologies like solar panels and solar roofs, Powerwall technology for your home, and the semi-truck.
In fact, Tesla claims that every new vehicle it builds contains all the hardware to be fully autonomous and should eventually be capable of driving itself through over-the-air software updates.
I've heard this a few times, but I'm not actually too sure that the hardware that is in the current cars now will be eligible for all the Tesla full self-drivings in the future. They've already had to upgrade from some of the older cars that can't handle the full self-driving, but I guess that's why they say that now all cars that are being produced has the hardware 3.0 that handles this full self-driving. But I wouldn't be surprised if Tesla were to come out with another hardware 3.5 or 4.0, and all the other cars would have to upgrade to that hardware.
You'll pay a premium for that software. As of August 2020, it costs Tesla owners an additional $8,000 for access to what it calls full self-driving capability.
Yeah, so it's $8,000 now, but when I got the car in August of last year, August of 2019, I actually paid $6,000 with the purchase price of the car. Shortly right after that, they increased it to $7,000, and then this past June, they increased it to $8,000. So it's gone up $2,000 in the past year or so.
But do all the features of the full self-driving package work as advertised? We're going to break down each one of those features, explain their intended use, and show you how they performed in our tests. We ran our tests at various times of day, in a variety of weather conditions, and in different locations.
So that's good. It looks like they ran tests at day and night and also in rainy conditions as well. But the one condition I've noticed that Tesla Autopilot system and the full self-driving system really bugs out is in that early morning when the sun is just risen and it's hitting directly at the cameras. That's when the Tesla Autopilot system, the cameras can't really see. Just like how you can't necessarily see and you have to put on sunglasses because the sun is coming directly in your face, the Tesla Autopilot system and its cameras also have a hard time seeing as well.
We also made sure that we had the most up-to-date hardware and software available, which during our testing was version 2020.24.6.4 running on hardware 3.
So the crazy thing with this is 2020.24.6.4 is probably 10 versions ago. I think now we're at 2020.36, which is at least a handful of updates since then, which really sucks for this review because it's not to the most up-to-date spec, but it really shows how Tesla is committed to updating their software and also, of course, updating the autopilot system.
Important, as Tesla's over-the-air software updates can alter the way these features perform. Tesla's active driving assistance systems are split into two parts: Autopilot, which includes adaptive cruise control and lane keeping capabilities, is now standard on every new Tesla. We're focusing on the full self-driving suite, which includes Navigate on Autopilot, Auto Lane Change, Auto Park, Summon, Smart Summon, and Traffic Light and Stop Sign Control.
Yeah, so that's actually a very big common misconception. Everybody thinks when they're purchasing a Tesla that they need the full self-driving capability because they think everything they hear about full self-driving is autopilot and it's not included in the car. But a lot of people don't realize when you buy a Tesla today, autopilot is included in the car. So what most people want with that ability for the car to stay in your lane and hands-free is already included in the car and they don't have to pay anything extra for that. And I've actually made a video on whether full self-driving is actually worth the $8,000 to upgrade. So I'll post a link above and in the description if you're interested in watching that.
Let's start with Auto Park. With a tap of the touchscreen, the car will automatically park your car in either a parallel or perpendicular space. We found it often worked as advertised, but sometimes it can be difficult to engage and doesn't always park straight. Similar features have been around for years on cars from many automakers, and they often suffer from the same problems.
So that was actually pretty much spot on. One thing that I noticed that other manufacturers' park systems don't do is that backing into parking spot ability that Tesla can do. Most auto park systems that I've driven, it can only do the parallel park, whereas the Tesla Autopilot system can back into a parking spot all by itself. It is finicky to trigger at times, but when it works, it works. Just like other manufacturers, it's also pretty finicky.
There's also auto lane change. While not unique to Teslas, this feature is straightforward and works as advertised. When Autopilot is activated, the driver engages the turn signal to change lanes. An animation appears on the screen showing where the car will move, and the car performs that maneuver without any further driver input. It will wait if there's a car in the way, but safety is ultimately the driver's responsibility.
So the auto lane change has gotten significantly better in the past year. I've actually made videos on this, but before it used to be super conservative and it would wait for a huge gap within the next lane before actually making that change. Now with these recent updates, it's pretty aggressive and pretty quick and very decisive, and will go right into that lane pretty quickly.
Next up, Summon. This feature is designed to allow the car to drive a short distance forwards and backwards without a driver behind the wheel. Using the Tesla app on a smartphone, you're able to direct the car slowly forward or backwards into a spot. We found it performed as advertised. You might think it could help in a narrow parking space, but Tesla's owner's manual acknowledges that parking in a narrow space limits the ability of the sensors to accurately detect the locations of obstacles, increasing the risk of damage to the car and/or surrounding objects.
So I've actually used Smart Summons in a tight parking space, and it actually worked really well. I was in a really tight parking space in downtown, and I just had to run into a store really quick. So I pulled up to the spot, got out of the car, pushed the button to back it into the space, and when I came out later, I used Summons to pull it forward, and then I got in the car.
Now those systems have been around for years, and some have improved over time. However, we had some significant concerns with the newer features of the full self-driving package. Let's take a look at Smart Summon. We tried out Smart Summon in a number of scenarios, including the parking lot at Consumer Reports headquarters. Overall, the system proved unreliable. At times, it would take overly complicated routes to reach us. And in other situations, it would get stuck in an incline and deactivate altogether. Even when Smart Summon was able to arrive at the location, it would spend time in the wrong lane, not pause for stop signs, and take wide turns towards parked cars and need to go in reverse to avoid a collision.
I kind of agree with this. Smart Summon is really a gimmick, and it really should be used under huge supervision. I've never really tried it in a parking lot that was full of people and other cars. I've really only tried it in empty parking lots just to see what it would do, but I would probably never ever do it in a parking lot with other cars and other pedestrians. One thing that I don't really mention in any part of this review is that the full self-driving system and the autopilot system is actually all still beta, so you really are test subjects for Tesla and these systems.
All of these are situations that could cause confusion to other drivers and be a potential hazard for any pedestrians in the car's path. Tesla states clearly on its website that Smart Summon is only intended for use in private parking lots and driveways. You are still responsible for your car and must monitor it and its surroundings at all times and be within your line of sight because it may not detect all obstacles. We can see benefits of this feature in scenarios Tesla uses as examples, such as coming to pick you up in your groceries in a rainy parking lot.
And that's really the only situation where I would use it, is if it was raining outside and I was staying at the front of the parking lot and I didn't want to walk to my car and get wet. That's when I would try to use it if the parking lot was either late at night and pretty empty, or there really wasn't a lot of cars or pedestrians around.
But the system is clearly not there yet. However, we do appreciate that the system can't be used on public roads. Next up, navigate on Autopilot. This feature uses the Autopilot system, but adds the ability for a Tesla on the highway to take on and off ramps, take exits, and make lane changes without driver input. Here's video of what we experienced on the road. While the system did perform as advertised occasionally, it was far from consistent. In this case, the system completely ignores the exit it intended to take.
I've never actually experienced that type of error. It typically will always go into the lane or the exit that's intended, unless there's something that blocks it from doing that. So there's actually two ways that you can have the Navigate on Autopilot system make its lane changes. You can either have the Tesla system make the lane changes for you, or you can give it that confirmation for it to make the lane changes for you.
Notice, not only is our tester now off his or her route, but is now stuck in a carpool lane. We also found the system would leave us driving in the passing lanes for long periods of time, when it would be best for a car in the scenario to be cruising in the right lane. And in this example, the system suddenly disengages, causing confusion for our driver in a heavily trafficked area, and with an on-ramp quickly approaching.
So yeah, the Autopilot system, the Navigate on Autopilot system disengaged, but it still kept it in the lane going to its intended direction. So I've seen that happen pretty often where the map GPS system is a little bit dated for construction areas and stuff like that. But Tesla does say that you're not necessarily supposed to use Autopilot in construction areas anyways. But I would imagine if it disengaged like that, it was probably going to engage a few moments later on.
This is a situation where the driver needs to be focused on the environment around them and not distracted with a system issue. And the ability to shut off lane change confirmations and warnings as an option is worrying, if not downright dangerous, as it could lead to drivers becoming startled by an unexpected and unsafe lane change while driving at highway speeds.
So these settings are actually what I was talking about, where you can actually have it give confirmation or require confirmation from the driver whether to make the lane changes or not. You can also see there's speed-based lane changes on really how aggressive you want the Autopilot Navigate on Autopilot system to be, like Mad Max or disabled. My current settings are Mad Max, and I require lane change confirmation from the driver for it to make the lanes.
The latest feature in the full self-driving package is traffic light and stop sign control. Tesla says this system will identify traffic lights and stop signs and bring your car to a stop as you approach. If an intersection is clear, the driver can tap the accelerator or pull the stalk and keep going.
So it's good. This feature actually just came out very recently, where it stops at stoplights and stop signs, and you can see they marked it as beta because it's very, very new. But given the track record on how many updates they release on a constant basis and how smooth features have become over the past year, just like how the auto lane change used to be very jerky and not as aggressive, now it's very smooth. I can imagine the Tesla traffic light and stop sign control beta feature will be very smooth in the future. I've used it actually pretty frequently in downtown and city local areas, and it's pretty glitchy still, but of course it is still in beta.
Take a look at how it performed. In this example, the car didn't recognize a stop sign at all, forcing our tester to hit the brakes to avoid driving right into the intersection and through the stop.
I've actually never seen that, and that actually has not happened to me yet. I wouldn't be surprised if that stop sign was hidden from the view of the camera. But the one thing that's very interesting, if you look at the visualization screen, it actually has detected the stop sign. So I wonder if something else was going on during that incident, where maybe the driver's foot was actually on the accelerator and accelerating through it. Not exactly too sure, but it looks like the visualization screen and the Tesla system has detected the stop sign and the intersection.
The system had issues navigating a roundabout, stopping at each exit in the junction. It would slam on the brakes when approaching a yield sign. And by design, this feature will stop you at any green light where you don't have a lead vehicle in front of you. And unless you are following another car or override the system, it will come to a complete stop at green lights. In fact, we think in its current iteration, the system could actually create more distraction and confusion for the driver.
So this is where it gets really, really interesting, because if you notice in this screen, as a Tesla owner, I noticed this, they're saying that the Tesla was in autopilot or full self-driving in this roundabout. But if you look in the visualization screen, you can tell when a Tesla is in autopilot or full self-driving. If there's a steering wheel lit, the steering wheel could be on with the blue indicator icon, or it could be gray, just saying that autopilot is available, but it's not actually on. So if you look in both of these clips right here, neither of them have the steering wheel indicator on, which means that autopilot and full self-driving wasn't actually on. You can see here that basically the same thing. Autopilot and full self-driving is not enabled at all. So even though the autopilot system has detected the stop sign or the yield sign, this autopilot system isn't on for it to be able to stop automatically. Let's actually go back to the stop sign. Now I'm curious. Okay, so yeah, interesting. I just noticed this, but this is actually really bad. If you notice on the visualization screen here, the autopilot system wasn't actually on in this scenario either. So it looks like they faked the car passing the stop sign and then stopping immediately after to show that the autopilot system didn't actually stop for the stop sign. In actuality, it probably would have.
Tesla does label the Navigate on Autopilot and traffic light and stop sign control features as beta. While you do have to opt in to use these features, Our testing demonstrated a number of problems with using them in everyday driving.
If you notice there, pretty much every single autopilot feature and full self-driving feature is already still beta, so they're not actually fully released, so you still kind of have to give it some slack in the sense that they're still beta, they're going to have glitches, and they're going to have errors.
Tesla says these systems will improve over time, but it's unclear whether or not they're worth the hefty $8,000 price tag at this point. Despite the name, the full self-driving suite of features doesn't make the car self-driving at this point and doesn't provide much real benefit for customers.
I kind of agree here. It's, in my opinion, even though I have it, it's not worth the $8,000 or the $6,000. I kind of wish they would break some of the features of that $8,000 full self-driving package so that it was like $2,000 for auto lane change or $2,000 for summons. But I get why they group all of it together to try and sell you that whole package. But if I were to buy it again, I probably would not spend $8,000 on the full self-driving package again.
Tesla collects data from those who buy it to help improve the system. But using developing technology like this on the road does not come without risk for you and other drivers. We reached out to Tesla for comment regarding these issues, but did not receive a reply.
The one thing that you are doing is you're locking in that price because as new features start to come out and these features start to get better, Tesla, of course, and they've already stated this, they are going to raise the price of full self-driving. But really the question is, how long are you going to keep your car? Are you going to keep your Tesla or your Model 3 longer than 3 years or 10 years? That's really the gamble you have to kind of place on yourself to see if you're going to actually get the full benefit of spending the $8,000 on the full self-driving system.
We'll continue to evaluate these and other active driving assistance systems as they become available. For more on advanced safety systems, check out consumerreports.org.
So yeah, that's my thoughts on the Consumer Reports Tesla full self-driving review. And it's pretty questionable on those results, on whether those videos were filmed during testing or kind of recreated after to show what the tester experienced during their review. But yeah, thanks for watching another video, guys. Please hit that like if you enjoyed it and comment below if you've seen this video and what your thoughts on it and whether you think they were pretty accurate or not. And if this has influenced your decision on buying full self-driving or not for $8,000. All right, guys, thanks for watching the video and I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.